Listen to this. Harleys aren't the most accessible bikes to own in Malaysia. You know, they're expensive to buy and they're expensive to own. But the distinct Harley look and soundtrack is also kind of hard to pass up. Well, that's where the QJMotor SRV250 comes in. Everything about the looks, from the stance to the twin pipes and even the text on the tank, looks heavily inspired by bits and pieces from various Harley-Davidson motorcycles. But I guess that's not too surprising because QJMotor recently announced their plans to enter into a joint venture with Harley-Davidson to make new bikes. Whether this SRV250 is a result of that joint venture, I'm not entirely sure, but the resemblance is uncanny. Granted, it's not that hard to get a cruiser to look like a Harley. What's impressive here is how the SRV250 also sounds a lot like a baby Harley-Davidson. It is powered by a 249cc liquid-cooled V-twin, and while I already have a soft spot for the way these engines sound, I think that the SRV250 takes the cake. The way it burbles on idle, you know, there's almost like a potato-y quality to the soundtrack. And then when you wind it out on the road, it's crazy how good it sounds on stop pipes.
There's so much free play.
Now, before you get your hopes up, the SRV250 is not a super fast motorcycle, and you'd be kinda silly to assume that it would be given the engine size. It makes about 27.5 horsepower at 9,000 RPM and 23 Newton meters of torque at 7,000 RPM. That's not too bad for a bike that weighs about 163 kilograms at the curb, and it definitely feels like it's enough power for a bike like this. But just sitting on it, you'll realize that this isn't meant to get you anywhere super fast. It's meant to get you there smoothly, comfortably, with plenty of style. I'm not a huge fan of cruisers, so the forward controls took some getting used to, but it's hard to argue with how comfortable the ergonomics were.
It's so comfortable. It's so comfortable.
You can even kind of fit a pillion on here, though the shape of the rear seat means that it's not gonna be comfortable for the pillion, nor will they have any handrails to hold on to. One hack that I found, if you're more comfortable with the naked bike riding position, or you just want to shift your weight a little during your ride, you can kick out the passenger foot pegs and use those instead. It won't handle like a naked bike though. I wouldn't expect to carve up a mountain pass with it, but for cruising and getting around town, it's pretty well behaved. Even a rider of my skill level who has never used forward controls on a bike like this before, I've had no problem making slow speed U-turns or split lanes. The tall handlebar and low seat makes it really confidence inspiring, and I think beginners would have no issue maneuvering this bike around, especially since it's so easy to flat foot. It also gets a bunch of neat features like ABS on the front and rear disc brakes, a digital display with fuel gauge, as well as a rather handsome set of lights and turn signals.
Buka.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Best lah this motor.
I think the only two things that stand out to me as potential issues is the lack of under-seat storage and tire options for the SRV250. Yes, there is a tiny space under the seat that can fit some tools, documentation, or an iPhone 13 Pro, but I doubt you'll be able to get something like, I don't know, a disc lock in there, which is the main thing that I store under my seat. And if we're talking about tires, the SRV250 runs a 150/80 15-inch tires at the back and 120/80 16-inch tires in the front. In my experience, these aren't super common or easy to find, but I'm not a cruiser boy, so if you disagree or think I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section below. But right now, these don't feel like deal breakers to me. You could, for example, add some saddlebags to complete the cruiser look and also solve your storage problem. I also think that an underrated feature is just how neat the whole bike already is without any hideous taillights or mudguards sticking out everywhere. I'd probably throw a tail tidy on there, but that's about it as far as initial mods that I'd make. It's a handsome bike, especially in this army green colorway, and for about 18,000 ringgit on the road, it doesn't seem like too bad value either. After all, this is the closest modern bike I've seen to a baby Harley-Davidson that fits under a B2 license. If you want to try this bike out for yourself, I'd recommend QJMotor in Bandar Baru Nilai. The people there were really accommodating to us, and they've also got a bunch of other bikes in their showroom that you can take a look at too.
So deposit dah letak?
Belum lagi ya. Itu KWSP 3.0.